Before you begin, discharge your iPhone battery below 25%. A charged lithium-ion battery can catch fire and/or explode if accidentally punctured. Power off your iPhone before beginning disassembly. You need a pentalobe screwdriver to open the iPhone 7. Remove the two 3.3 mm pentalobe screws on the bottom edge of the iPhone and put them into a screw storage. To lift the front panel, you need a suction cup, a hard plastic pick and a heat gun. If the screen is severely cracked, cover all of it with packing tape before you continue. The screen is glued to the frame. Use a heat gun to heat the outer edges of the display to about 60 Celsius, 140 Fahrenheit. Place the suction cup at the bottom of the display. While lifting the screen with the suction cup, insert the hard plastic pick between the frame and the display and press down the frame. Do not insert your tool more than 5 mm into the gap, so you don't damage small parts inside the iPhone. Because the display's glued on, you have to slide the pick all around the iPhone between the aluminum frame and the display frame. Do not try to pry the top edge of the display away from the rear case, as it is held in place by plastic clips that may break. Open the iPhone by swinging the display up from the left side, like the back cover of a book. Don't try to fully separate the display yet, as several fragile ribbon cables still connect it to the iPhone's logic board. Use a Y-type screwdriver to loosen the 4 Y-type screws, and then remove the bracket plate over the battery connector. 1 2.4 mm Y-type, 3 1.0 mm Y-type. Keep careful track of your screws, so that each one goes back where it came from during reassembly. Installing a screw in the wrong place can cause permanent damage. Remove the two 1.2 mm Phillips screws securing the bracket over the front panel sensor assembly connector. Before starting the repair, disconnect the battery connector to prevent short circuits and avoid accidentally turning on your device during the repair. Use the spudger to also disconnect the display connectors, display and home button. Carefully separate the FaceTime connector from the board with a spudger. The earpiece is on the back of the display unit. Remove the 3 Phillips screws from the cover on the earpiece. Put all the parts in the same section of your magnetic pad. Remove the 2 Phillips screws holding the earpiece in place. Note that the screws have different lengths. Mixing them up could cause damage to the display during assembly. Removing the FaceTime camera cable set is a 2-step process. Loosen the heavily stuck cable set by first heating it with a hot air tool, and then carefully separating it from the inside of the display with a spatula. Now carefully lift the sensors integrated in the cable set and the FaceTime camera out of its guides with tweezers. Removing the home button. Remove the 4 Y-type screws securing the bracket over the home Touch ID sensor. 1 1.2 mm screw, 3 1.3 mm screws. Remove the bracket. Carefully detach the home button connector with the spudger. The cable of the home button is very sensitive. Even small damages can cause the home button and the Touch ID to fail. Now press the home button from the inside out of the display unit. Removing the back plate. First remove the 6 Y-type screws that fix the metal back plate. Remove the detached back plate and put it aside. Preparing the new display. Before installing the new screen, please test the basic functions of the new screen first. When connecting the connectors, make sure the connectors are seated correctly, and don't slide them over the sockets on the logic board to avoid damaging the contacts. Make sure that any steps should be connected to the battery cable last to avoid a short circuit. Before you finally close the device, you should test it to make sure that all functions work. Select an app and drag it all around the display. If the app follows your finger everywhere, the touch screen is working correctly. Test the brightness of the display. You can use the Voice Memo app to test the microphone, speakers, earpiece, and proximity sensor. Turn off the phone again after the test is complete. Remove the display assembly. Peel the protective film off the new display and remove the seals. Reinstall the rear panel, front camera, sensors, earpiece, home button removed from the old monitor. Position the back plate on the inside of the display and fix it with the 6Y type screws. Note that there is still glue on the bottom of the back plate. Place the back plate exactly over the screw holes before you screw it on. Installing the FaceTime cable. First press the sensors back into the guide. Then press the flex cable on the inside of the display. Make sure that the proximity sensor is correctly positioned, otherwise its function is limited. Installing the earpiece. Lift up the FaceTime camera cable set to put the earpiece back into its lead. Then press the FaceTime camera into its opening. Place the FaceTime cable set over the earpiece, then place the silver bracket plate over earpiece and FaceTime camera, and screw it in place with the Phillips screws. Do not tighten the screws too much, otherwise they may show through the paint on the front of the display. Be careful not to mix up the screws. The wrong screw in the wrong place can scratch the lacquer coating, and can also be seen on the front of the display. Installing the home button. Guide the home button from the front through the recess in the display. Lift the connector of the home button to position the flex cable of the home button underneath. Connect the connector to the flex cable. Then put the silver cover plate back over the cable and the home button, and screw them together with the 4Y type screws. Be careful not to over-tighten these screws, or your home button may not work. Attaching a new adhesive frame. After attaching a new adhesive frame, iPhone 7 is again protected against dust and splash water but is no longer 100% waterproof. First, remove all adhesive residue on the metal frame and display to ensure that the new adhesive frame fits properly. Try to align the adhesive frame with the back cover of your iPhone in order to position it correctly. The corners are different and help with orientation. Remove the first protective film from the adhesive frame. Then place it on one side and apply it gradually to the edge of the back cover. Now also remove the remaining protective films so that only a thin strip of transparent adhesive film remains on the edge of the iPhone. Attaching the FaceTime connector. Place the display upright on the frame and connect the FaceTime connector to the logic board. Place the display on the side of the back cover. Connecting the display. Connect the two display connectors, display and home button, to the logic board again. Attaching the battery connector. Reconnect the battery by reattaching the battery connector. Put the bracket plate over the battery connector and secure it with the 4 screws. Be careful not to mix up the screws. Place the cover plate over the FaceTime connector and fix it with the 2 Phillips screws. Attaching the display. Make sure that the silver chip on the cable is positioned exactly as before. See photo. Otherwise, you will see discolorations and spots on the screen at this exact spot after installation. If you notice this error, check the position of the cable again and align the chip exactly like in our photo. Place the display on the side of the back cover and carefully fold it over. Then press the display firmly over the entire surface. Fastening the rear case screws. Screw the 2 pentalobe screws left and right of the lightning connector back into the rear case. Our products are strictly tested before shipment to ensure that the perfect product is delivered to the customer. If you have any problems with the products you receive, please feel free to contact the store customer service or official email. We will give you a satisfactory solution. Thank you for choosing FOOBONG.